Nityananda Jaya Advaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Advaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya 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 Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda 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 Jaya Advaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Jaya Advaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Advaita Chandra Jaya Hare Krishna. So we would be reading from Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, Chapter 13, text 61. We'll first read this and then we'll start from the start of the chapter. साक्षाते न देखे देखा परोक्षे तदया साक्षाते न देखे देखा परोक्षे तदया के भुजिते पारे चैतन्य चंद्रे रमाया साक्षाते न देया देखा परोक्षे तदया के भुजिते पारे चैतन्य चंद्रे रमाया साक्षाते न देया देखा परोक्षे तदया के भुजिते पारे चैतन्य चंद्रे रमाया Sakshate, directly, na, not, deya, gives, dekha, interview, parokshe, indirectly, ta, indeed, daya, there was mercy, ke, who, bhujete, to understand, pare, is able, Chaitanya Chandrera, of Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Maya, internal potency. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. Translation. Although the king had been refused an interview, he was indirectly bestowed causeless mercy. Who can understand the internal potency of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu? Purport. As Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was playing the part of a world teacher, he did not agree to see the king, because the king is a mundane person interested in money and woman. Indeed, the very word king suggests one who is always surrounded by money and women. As a sannyasi, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was afraid of both money and women. The very word king is repugnant to one who is in the renounced order of life. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu refused to see the king, but indirectly, by Lord's causeless mercy, the king was able to understand the Lord's mysterious activities. Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's activities were exhibited sometimes to reveal him as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and sometimes to show him as a devotee. Both kinds of activities are mysterious and appreciated only by pure devotees. Hare Krishna. So we'll start reading from start of the chapter. Seek all of your blessings so that I read properly. The ecstatic dancing of Lord at Atrathyatra. A summary of this chapter is given by Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur in his Amrita Pravaha Bhashya as follows. After bathing early in the morning, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu saw the deities Jagannath, Baladev and Subhadra get aboard their 3 carts. This function is called Pandu Vijay. At that time, King Prataparudra took a broom with a golden handle and began to cleanse the road. Lord Jagannath took permission from Goddess of Fortune and then started in the car for the Gundicha temple. The road to the temple led along a broad sandy beach, and on both sides of the road were residential quarters, houses and gardens. Along that road, the servants called Gaudas began to pull the cars. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu divided his Sankirtan party into 7 divisions. With 2 mridangas in each division, there were altogether 14 mridangas. While performing Kirtan, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu exhibited various symptoms of transcendental ecstasy, and Jagannath and Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu exchanged their feelings very blissfully. When the cars reached the place known as Balagandi, the devotee offered the deities simple food. At this time, in a nearby garden, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and his devotees took a brief rest from the dancing. Text 1. Sajayat Krishna Chaitanya Shri Rathagre Nartanayah Yena Sija Jagatam Chitram Jagannathopi Vishwatah. May the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Sri Chaitanya, who danced in front of the car of Sri Jagannath, be all glorified. By seeing his dancing, not only was the whole universe held in wonder, but Lord Jagannath himself became very much astonished. All glories to Sri Chaitanya and Prabhu Nityananda. All glories to Advaita Chandra. And all glories to the devotees of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. All glories to the listeners of Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita. Please hear the descriptions of dancing of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu at the Ratha festival. His dancing is very enchanting. Please hear it with great attention. The next day, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and his personal associates got up in the dark and attentively took their early morning baths. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and his personal associates then went to see the ceremony of Pandu Vijay. During this ceremony, Lord Jagannath leaves his throne and gets up onto the car. King Prataparudra in person as well as his entourage allowed the Pandu Vijay ceremony to be seen by all the associates of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Fortunately, we can see that in live nowadays, and we see how Lord goes like a transcendentally drunkard personality, So some devotee had asked those pandas, how did you manage to keep up sync between all of you, like, it's so beautifully, like, Lord moves. So the panda said, actually we don't do anything. It's Lord only moves. We are just, trying to take him to the cart. So it's really a beautiful ceremony. That's like, Pandu Vijay. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and his prominent devotees, Advaita Acharya, Nityanand Prabhu and others, were very happy to observe how Lord Jagannath began the Rathyatra. The very strongly built Daitas, carriers of the Jagannath deity, were as powerful as drunken elephants. They manually carried Lord from the throne to the car. Purport. The word Daita refers to one who has received the mercy of Lord. Shri Varshabhanavi Devi Daita Das, right? We pray for Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Prabhu, so that Daita word comes there. Lord Jagannath has a number of stalwart servants known as Daitas. These servants do not come from very high caste families, Brahmanas, Kshatriyas or Vaishyas. But because they are engaged in the service of the Lord, they have been elevated to a respected position. Thus they are known as Daitas. These servants of Lord Jagannath take care of the Lord from the day of Snanayatra up to the time the Lord is carried from the throne to the Rathakar. In the Kshetra Mahatmya, these Daitas are said to come from the Shabaras, a caste that keeps and sells pigs. However, among the Daitas, there are also many who come from the Brahmana caste. Those Daitas coming from the Brahmana families are called Daitapatis, or leaders of the Daitas. The Daitapatis offer food such as sweetmeats to Lord Jagannath during the Annavasara, the resting period after Snanayatra. They also make the early morning offering of sweetmeats daily. It is said that during the Annavasara, Lord Jagannath suffers from fever, and the Daitapatis offer him an infusion of drugs represented by fruit juice. It is said that in the beginning, Lord Jagannath was worshipped by the Shabaras and was known as deity Neelamadhava. Later, when the deity was established in the temple, the Lord became known as Jagannath. Because the deities were taken from Shabaras, all the Shabara devotees were elevated to the position of Daitas. While carrying the deity of Lord Jagannath, some of the Daitas took hold of shoulders of Lord and some caught his lotus feet. The Lord Jagannath deity was bound at the waist by a strong, thick rope made of silk. From two sides, the Daitas caught hold of this rope and raised the deities. Strong puffed up cotton pads called tulis were spread out from the throne to the car, and the heavy deity of Lord Jagannath was carried from one pillow-like pad to the next by the Daitas. While the Daitas carried the heavy Jagannath deity from one pad to the next, some of the pads broke and the cotton contents floated into the air. When they broke, they made a heavy cracking sound. Lord Jagannath is the maintainer of the whole universe. Who can carry him from one place to another? The Lord moves by his personal will just to perform his pastimes. While the Lord was transported from the throne to the car, tumultuous sounds were made on various musical instruments. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was chanting, Manima, Manima, but he could not be heard. Purport. The word Manima is used to address a respectable person in Orissa. Lord Jagannath was being respectfully addressed by Sri Chaitanya in this way. While the Lord was being carried from the throne to the car, King Prataprudra personally engaged in the Lord's service by cleaning the road with a broom that had a golden handle. The king sprinkled the road with sandalwood scented water. Although he was the owner of the royal throne, he engaged in menial service for the sake of Lord Jagannath. Although the king was the most exalted, respectable person, still he accepted menial service of the Lord. He therefore became a suitable candidate for receiving the Lord's mercy. Upon seeing the king engaged in such menial service, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu became very happy. Simply by rendering this service, the king received the mercy of Lord. Purport: unless one receives the mercy of the Lord, he cannot understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead or engage in devotional service. Athapi te deva padam bhujadvaya prasadaleshanugrahita evahi jananti tattvam bhagavan mahimno nachanya eko pichiram vichinvan. Bhagavatam, Canto 10, Chapter 14, Text 29. A devotee who has received even a small fraction of the mercy of the Lord can understand him. Others may engage in theoretical speculation to understand the Lord, but they cannot know anything about him. Although Maharaj Prataprudra was very eager to see Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the Lord refused to see him. But when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu saw the king engaged in menial service for Lord Jagannath, he became very happy. Thus the king became eligible to receive Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's mercy. If a devotee accepts Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu as the universal Guru and Lord Jagannath as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, he is benefited by the combined mercy of Krishna and Guru. That is stated by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in his instruction to Rupa Goswami, Chaitanya Charitamrut Madhya Leela, Chapter 19, Text 151. Brahmanda Brahmite Kona Bhagyavan Jeev Guru Krishna Prasad Paya Bhakti Lata Bij. The seed of devotional service fructifies and becomes a transcendental creeper. Finally, it reaches the lotus feet of the Lord in the spiritual sky. This seed is obtained by the mercy of Lord and the Guru. By the Lord's mercy, one gets the association of a bona fide Guru, and by mercy of the Guru, one gets a chance to render devotional service. Devotional service, the science of Bhakti Yoga, carries one from this material world to the spiritual world. Everyone was astonished to see decorations on Rathakar. The car appeared to be newly made of gold, and it was as high as Mount Sumeru. Purport: in the year 1973, there was a gorgeous Atrathyatra festival in London, England, and the car was brought to Trafalgar Square. The London daily newspaper, The Guardian, published a front page photo caption, ISKCON, quotes, ISKCON Rathyatra is rival to the Nelson column in Trafalgar Square. Quote close. The Nelson column is a very impressive statue of Lord Nelson and can be seen from a good distance. Just as the resident of Puri compared the Rathayatra car to Mount Sumeru, the residents of London consider the car rival to Nelson Monument. The decorations included bright mirrors and hundreds of chamaras, white whisk made of yak tails. On top of the car were a neat and clean canopy and a very beautiful flag. The car was also decorated with the silken cloth and various pictures. Many brass bells, gongs, and ankle bells rang. For the pastime of Atrathyatra ceremony, Lord Jagannath got aboard on car, and his sister Subhadra and elder brother Balaram got aboard two other cars. Each car has a name. It's like Nandi Ghosh and somebody remembers? Anyway, but yeah, each car is even given names of, and then the colors are fixed. For 15 days, the Lord had remained in a secluded place with the supreme goddess of fortune and had performed his pastimes with her. Purport: the 15-day period of Annavasara is also called Nibhrata, in honor of solitary place where the supreme goddess of fortune lives. After living there a fortnight, Lord Jagannath took permission from the goddess of fortune to leave. Having taken permission from the goddess of fortune, the Lord came out to ride on the Ratha car and perform his pastimes for the pleasure of devotees. Purport: in this connection, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur comments that as an ideal husband, Lord Jagannath remains 15 days in a secluded place with his wife, the supreme goddess of fortune. Nonetheless, the Lord wanted to come out of seclusion to give happiness to his devotees. The Lord enjoys himself in two ways, known as Swakiya and Parakiya. The Lord's conjugal love in the Swakiya Rasa relates to the regulative principles observed in Dwarka, where the Lord has many married queens. But in Vrindavan, the conjugal love of the Lord is not with his married wives, but with his girlfriends, the gopis. Conjugal love with the gopis is called Parakiya Rasa. Lord Jagannath leaves the secluded place where he enjoys the company of the supreme goddess of fortune in Swakiya Rasa, and he goes to Vrindavan where he enjoys the Parakiya Rasa. Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur therefore reminds us that Lord's pleasure in Parakiya Rasa is superior to his pleasure in Swakiya Rasa. In the material world, Parakiya Rasa, or loving affairs with unmarried girlfriends, is the most degraded relationship. But in the spiritual world, this type of loving affair is considered the supreme enjoyment. In the material world, everything is but a reflection of the spiritual world, and that reflection is perverted. We cannot understand the affairs of spiritual world on the basis of our experience in the material world. The Lord's pastimes with the gopis are therefore misunderstood by mundane scholars and word wranglers. The Parakiya Rasa of spiritual world should not be discussed except by one who is very advanced in pure devotional service. The Parakiya Rasa in the spiritual world and that in the material world are not comparable. The former is like gold and the latter is like iron. Because the difference between the two is so great, they cannot actually be compared. However, just as knowledgeable person can easily distinguish gold from iron, one who has the proper realization can easily distinguish the transcendental activities of the spiritual world from material activities. The fine white sand spread all over the path resembled the bank of Yamuna, and the small gardens on both sides looked just like those in Vrindavan. As Lord Jagannath rode his cart and saw the beauty on both sides, his mind was filled with pleasure. The pullers of the car were known as Gaudas, and they were pulled with great pleasure. However, the car sometimes went very fast and sometimes very slow. Sometimes the car would stand still and not move, even though it was pulled very vigorously. The chariot therefore moved by the will of the Lord, not by the strength of an ordinary person. As the car stood still, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu gathered all his devotees and with his own hand decorated them with flower garlands and sandalwood pulp. When Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur was appeared in this world, that year's Ratha the cart had again stopped in front of house of Bhakti Vinod Thakur. So yeah, cart moves on its own will, Jagannathji's will. Paramananda Puri and Brahmanand Bharati were both personally given garlands and sandalwood pulp from the very hands of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. This increased their transcendental pleasure. Similarly, when Advaita Acharya and Nityanand Prabhu felt the touch of the transcendental hand of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, they were very pleased. The Lord also gave garlands and sandalwood pulp to the performers of Sankirtana. The two chief performers were Sarup Damodar and Srivas Thakur. There were altogether 4 parties of Kirtan performers, comprising 24 chanters. In each party, there were also 2 Mridanga players, making an additional 8 persons. When the 4 parties were formed, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, after some consideration, divided the chanters. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu ordered Nityanand Prabhu, Advaita Acharya, Haridas Thakur and Vakreshwar Pandit to dance in each of the 4 respective parties. Swarup Damodar was chosen as a leader of the first party and was given 5 assistants to respond to his chanting. The 5 who responded to the singing of Swarup Damodar were Damodar Pandit, Narayan, Govinda Datta, Raghav Pandit and Sri Govindananda. Advaitacharya Prabhu was ordered to dance in the first group. The Lord then formed another group with Srivas Thakur as the chief man. Purport. In the first group, Damodar Swarup was appointed chief singer. So Damodar Swarup is Swarup Damodar Goswami. And the responding singers were Damodar Pandit, Narayan, Govinda Datta, Raghav Pandit and Govindananda. Sri Advaita Acharya was appointed as a dancer. The next group was formed and the chief singer was Srivas Thakur. The 5 singers who responded to the singing of Srivas Thakur were Gangadas, Haridas, Shriman, Shubhananda and Sri Ram Pandit. Sri Nityanand Prabhu was appointed as a dancer. Another group was formed consisting of Vasudev, Gopinath and Murari. All these were responsive singers and Mukunda was the chief singer. Another 2 persons, Shrikanta and Vallabhasen, joined as responsive singers. In this group, the senior Haridas Thakur, was the dancer. Purport. In the third group, Mukunda was appointed the chief singer. This party was composed of Vasudev, Gopinath, Murari, Shrikanta and Vallabhasen. The senior Haridas Thakur was the dancer. The Lord formed another group appointing Govinda Ghosh as leader. In this group, the younger Haridas, Chota Haridas, Vishnudas and Raghava were responding singers. 2 brothers named Madhav Ghosh and Vasudev Ghosh also joined this group as responsive singers. Vakreshwar Pandit was the dancer. There was a Sankirtan party from the village known as Kulinagram. and Ramananda and Satyaraj were appointed the dancers in the group. There was another party that came from Shantipur and was formed by Advaita Acharya. Achyutananda was the dancer and the rest of the men were singers. Another party was formed by people of Khanda, that's place Shrikhanda, These people were singing in different places. In that group, Narahari Prabhu and Raghunandan were dancing. 4 parties chanted and danced in front of Lord Jagannath, and one on either side was another party. On either side was another party, yet another was at the rear. So 4 plus 2 plus 1, There were altogether 7 parties of Sankirtan, and each party 2 men were beating drums. Thus 14 drums were being played at once. The sound was tumultuous and all the devotees became mad. All the Vaishnavas came together like an assembly of clouds. As the devotees chanted the holy names in great ecstasy, tears fell from their eyes like rain. When the Sankirtan resounded, it filled the 3 worlds. Indeed, no one could hear any sound or musical instrument other than the Sankirtan. Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu wandered through all 7 groups chanting the holy names, Hari Hari, Hari Hari. Raising his arms, he shouted, All glories to Lord Jagannath! All glories to Lord Jagannath! Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu then exhibited another mystic power by performing pastimes simultaneously in all 7 groups. Everyone said, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is present in my group. Indeed, he does not go anywhere else. He is bestowing his mercy upon us. Actually, no one could see the inconceivable potency of Lord. Only the most confidential devotees, those in pure unalloyed devotional service, could understand. So same thing in Rasalila. Everybody thought Krishna is dancing with them only. So Lord Jagannath was very much pleased by Sankirtan, and he brought his car to a standstill just to see the performance. King Prataprudra was also astonished to see the Sankirtan. He became inactive and was converted to ecstatic love of Krishna. When the king informed Kashi Mishra the glories of Lord, Kashi Mishra replied, O king, your fortune has no limit. The king and Sarvabhaum Bhattacharya were both aware of Lord's activities, but no one else could see the tricks of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Why they were aware? Because they had received mercy of Lord. That just came before. Only a person who has received the mercy of Lord can understand. Without the Lord's mercy, even the demigods, headed by Lord Brahma, cannot understand. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had been very satisfied to see the king accept the menial task of sweeping the street, and for this humility, the king received the mercy of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He could therefore observe the mystery of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's activities. Purport: the mystery of Lord Chaitanya's activities is described by Sri Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. Lord Jagannath was astonished to see the transcendental dancing and chanting of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and he stopped his car just to see the dancing. Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu then danced in such a mystic way that he pleased Lord Jagannath. The seer and the dancer were one and the same supreme person, but the Lord, being one and many at the same time, was exhibiting the variegatedness of his pastimes. This is the meaning behind his mysterious exhibition. By the mercy of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the king could understand how the two of them were enjoying each other's activities. Another mysterious exhibition was Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's simultaneous presence in 7 groups. By the mercy of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the king could understand that also. So it's a very beautiful verse, actually, wherein is saying that it was king's humility that attracted Lord Chaitanya. Before that, he had been requesting audience with the Lord Chaitanya, but he always refused. But when he saw him humbly sweeping the street, that was the point where Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's heart was transformed. And later also we see in this chapter, when Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya asked the king to dress in a simple way and go and serve Lord Chaitanya, while massaging the feet, the king was reciting Gopi Gita, and when that time Lord Chaitanya asked, "Who are you?" So king did not say, "Oh, okay, I am the same King Prataprudra whom you had denied." What did he say? Raja kahe ami tomar daser anudas, bhruttera bhrutte kahi yei moras. He said, "Oh Lord, ami tomar, I am servant of your servant, and my only aspiration is, let me be known as servant of your servants." So that was the humility of Lord King Prataprudra that attracted the mercy of Lord, and the pastime would continue. So we will continue reading from tomorrow. Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu ki jai, Shri Atrathyatra Mahamahotsav ki jai, Shri Jagannath Baldev Subhadra Maharani ki jai, Shri Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Thai Go.